This is a tutorial on how to introduce dynamic lighting to your tuber using solely OBS plugins without StreamFX. Before we start, I do want to give a quick shout out to Virtual Graves and Uzikins on Twitter for the idea, and also Nutty on YouTube for the tutorial on how to create a dynamic mask without StreamFX. So yeah, links to both of them will be in the description. So before you get started, there are a few plugins that you have to install. The first plugin will be the source clone plugin. Second plugin you need to install is the Composite Blur plugin. And the final plugin you need to install is the Sprout 2 plugin. Hey, Patient here from the future. You actually need to install 4 plugins. The fourth plugin is going to be the Glow plugin, which is important if you want to add glow to your VTuber model. Right down here, I have a kind of a really basic setup. I have a master scene, which is where the main scene that I would be recording or be streaming from, and then just another screen scene where it could have multiple screens, like a display capture, or in this case a game capture. I'm currently capturing Ultra Kill at the moment. I'm going to create a new scene that's going to be my VTuber scene of where I will grab my VTuber from. So in the VTuber scene, you're going to go underneath sources and then add a new source that's called Sprout 2, and you can rename this to whatever. I'm just going to name this to Pat Tuber. So Pat's going to be on the screen. Say hi, Pat. Hi, Pat. Underneath the Sprout 2 window, go underneath composite mode and then select default. And an additional thing I would like to do, I'm going to create a group and then call this VTuber assets. Now this group is essentially entire collection of sources that would be captured by the dynamic lighting. Like for example, if you have a controller or a keyboard and you want that to also be colored like the VTuber model as well. So there's that. Put the Pat Tuber in here. Bam. So next up, we're going to be creating another scene, and this scene is going to be called the dynamic mask. So underneath this scene, you're going to be adding 2 source clones. One of them is going to be the screen blur. It's going to be clone type source, and the clone will be the screen. And the second source clone is going to be the VTuber assets clone, but I'm going to be naming this the VTuber mask. Clone, VTuber assets. There's going to be 2 of them that shows up in clone sometimes. It doesn't really matter. And again, clone type, it's going to be source, just like that. So it has to be in this order where screen blur is on top of the VTuber mask. I'm just going to turn off visibility of the screen blur so I can modify with the VTuber mask. You're going to want to right click the VTuber mask and press filters. I learned this trick from Nutty, so shout out to him again, where you add a color correction and you turn the gamma, contrast, and brightness all the way up so that your model is completely white. Now we're going to be moving on to the screen blur. You're going to right click screen blur and press filters, and you're going to add a composite blur. Now this is kind of where you get to have fun and just mess around with a bunch of stuff. So in this case, what worked for me is the blur algorithm will be the dual kawase. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, so please forgive me. And the blur radius, I'm going to do like around 140 or so. Like I said, you can mess around with this depending on like how intensely defined you want your VTuber model to be colorized. You don't need to do anything else for the background screen or effect mask. That's all you need to do. So you're going to also want to once again right click screen blur. Go underneath blending mode. And then multiply. Now the VTuber mask perfectly captures of what's going on the screen blur. So let's go back to the VTuber scene. You're going to want to add a new scene, which will be the dynamic mask, and that's going to be sitting on top of everything else. So you're going to need to right click on the dynamic mask, go underneath blending mode, and then click on multiply, and then bam. Now this is another instance of where you can also have a little bit of fun with on how you would modify the dynamic lighting. So I just right click on the dynamic mask scene itself, go over filters, and then color correction. And then I get to mess with these some of these values. Like majority of the time I would turn contrast all the way up, and then it's up to you on between the gamma and brightness. I learned that gamma intensifies the darkness and the brightness kind of just turns everything turn everything up white. But like I said, just mess around with some of these values, but you need to turn the contrast all the way up. So that looks good. I'm quite happy with that. Going back to the master scene, let's add my Vtuber Scene. There he is, right there. Put him in the lower corner or wherever you want to put your VTuber. And if you just want to add dynamic lighting to your VTuber, that's pretty much it. Although moving on to the last thing, if you want to add glow, add another source clone to the VTuber scene and I call it glow. It's going to be cloning the VTuber asset's source. Press OK. Every pink part of him will be glowing. What we want to do is get rid of every single other color that's on him except for the pink. Now, there isn't really a good way, as far as I know of, there isn't a really good way to essentially do a reverse alpha chroma key. But essentially what works best for me is just use a combination of chroma key, color key, or luma key to just get rid of every single other color that's on him except for the pink. So this is definitely going to take a little bit of finicking, and I'll see you in a little bit once I get this finished. So we're back. Like I said, there isn't really a good way in OBS at the current moment to do a reverse alpha chroma key. So after you have all of the keys out of the way, then you're going to add the glow filter. And you want this to be outer glow. And once again, blur type, it would be the dual kawase. Like I said, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but we'll keep going. And again, this is where you get to have a little bit of fun, where you can like change the size and the intensity of the glow, and also the color as well. In this case, I'm probably just going to go for a nice magenta. Nice pinkish or magenta color. So I'm quite happy with that. We'll press closed, and then bam. Thanks for watching. I was actually really quite happy to figure this out without using StreamFX, and I really hope that I'm able to help other people that also want to apply dynamic lighting to their VTuber. I stream on Twitch, and I sometimes post on YouTube, so if you really like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It'd be much appreciated, and also give a comment if you feel so desired. Thank you once again for watching, and I really hope I can see you all again.